It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 459. Tonight I'm joined by Kodra.
I'm first?
You are first. Tam.
Hello, he is first. That's crazy.
And Thalen. Yeah.
Hello.
We're down the first part of the alphabet.
I don't know how to react to this.
Yeah. Like, I know Grace has had problems when they were the first in the show, so that's a thing for certain. So we're down a bunch of folks. Some folks are doing exciting things. Some folks are feeling under the weather. Some folks are just stressed. But
that season,
we're gonna make it through with 4 people because we've done that before, right?
It's the most...
We've done 2-person shows, I believe, in the past.
I know. It just always feels awkward when it's a 2-person show. It is more of an interview panel at that point. So this week we got the official league information drop for Affliction League, and it was nothing that anyone was expected. Like, there were a bunch of expectations going into this. Like, folks thought Sentinel was coming back based on a Caesar cipher buried in the names of 2 characters in a spoiler screenshot.
Bro.
That had like an anagram.
You know what's crazy about that? They were half right, but it was the more obscure thing that they were trying to guess at that they were right about.
Right.
God.
Yeah, because Ultimatum, like, they thought it basically said Sentinel and Ultimatum are coming back, which to some extent isn't untrue, because the Affliction League mechanic is kind of like Sentinel was.
Yeah, but it's definitely more themed in a way that's friendly to PoE. I actually really am excited about this.
This was a very wild 2 hours for me, from the reveal of being overwhelmingly excited about it to being helplessly depressed about it when the full patch notes came out. Yeah. Because RF is basically dead in its current version.
Whoa.
Well,
Righteous Fire. Well, okay.
So that's a strong statement.
There's hope.
Well, okay. So
a modicum of hope.
There is some hopium, because what it looked like they were doing with a lot of the switches of gems is making a less popular version of gameplay more front and center with the standard version of the gem, and then putting the old-fashioned gem as like one of the alternates. And that has been shown to be the case for a couple of gems, that we know what the different versions of the gems are going to look like. I guess I should take a step back.
Yes.
Alternate forms of gems are basically gone from the game in the way they were previously.
Wait, is that actually true?
Yes.
Like divergent gems are gone?
Yeah. Yes, divergent and anomalous.
Oh. Do we know what's going into heist then?
They are reworking the heist rewards to like make replicas and things better.
Yeah, so contracts no longer have a specific reward type that they drop. Not contracts, blueprints. Yeah. So all blueprints have basically a pool of all of the things that they could have gotten or dropped before. So like every blueprint you run could give you, the replicas or the experimental types or
but they
currencies.
Won't tell you which.
Yeah, they don't tell you until you're actually in the loot room.
That does change your ability to intelligently invest your markers.
Right, but like it also makes it so that there's not one kind of blueprint that's useless, because that's what always ended up being, was like, especially the trinket blueprint. Nobody wanted to run that one.
Wasn't the trinket blueprint the currency blueprint?
Yeah, but the currency, I don't know, it tended to be relatively minor amounts of currency compared to what you could get from spending the same amount of time elsewhere.
Right.
I feel like they could have just dialed up the numbers on those currencies.
Well, they could have, but still the types of currencies that they were rewarding is different than I got this gem that is worth 50 div.
Yeah.
Because like some of the anomalous and divergent qualities of gems were like, yeah,
some of those alternate qualities were just like, that shows up, you've hit the jackpot.
Okay, I clearly didn't run into any of those or didn't realize that.
Yeah. I mean, like I've gotten a couple of them that sold for like 10 div, something like that. So like still, windfall, but not, it's a 50 div gem.
You had something that happened to you in PoE that you didn't understand the implications of? Shocker.
It's true. I had, but see, this is the thing. This makes me feel better because I'm going to run Heist regardless. Heist is just fun.
Right. Heist blueprints are just better now for the average person who gets random blueprints and runs them.
Which I think is really good. Mm-hmm. Like, I am perfectly okay with making whatever like super high niche version of things like slightly less good or slightly weirder in favor of like, hey, the average person running this is gonna have a better time.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm wondering about with the Righteous Fire. So, okay, the change on Righteous Fire is basically you get no flat damage increase with gem levels on Righteous Fire, and all of your increases come from 70% of your total armor or life and energy shield.
Which, to be clear, is double what it previously was.
Right, which is double what it was previously, but
the base damage is no longer there.
So
the scaling is different.
This is true, but I should stress that like the scaling damage was at level 20, like 2,000 damage. So you don't need that much health to be able to match that. Yes, I know what you're about to say, Bell, but I'm telling you that from a normal player perspective who isn't going to the effort to get the specific scaling fire damage skill gems.
Well, and that's what part of what Bell was saying is for just an average player who's not, pushing like for the tippy top, this is Righteous Fire at low levels and low level maps is going to do more damage than it previously did.
Right. But you hit a wall.
Yeah.
That isn't as easy to get rid of as it used to be, because like getting a +1 fire gem amulet, for example, is pretty easy. You can just spam alts until you get it and then craft something else on it and you're fine.
Yeah.
So like it was pretty easy to at least get +2 gem levels. So a +1 fire like scepter and a +1 fire amulet, and you're doing better than what you can do with this new gem. And also like it's losing some flat burning damage scaling off the quality, which also kind of hurts it, but I don't know if that matters as much because it's getting AoE scaling instead, but it's getting a lot of AoE scaling. So like it will be feasible that, by the time something gets close to you, it may have taken like 3 ticks instead of what it would have taken 1 tick.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, like, I mean, like I do kind of wonder if, so there is a type of Righteous Fire that is super high investment, and it involves getting like around 50,000 energy shield. And this gem will be universally better for that style of gameplay.
Yeah.
But for the relatively low investment player, it is going to kind of suck as compared to the previous version.
Yeah.
So like I still have hope that maybe whenever we get all of the gems, there will be a version that works like the current version somewhere out there.
I mean, in the Labyrinth. Because that's where those will come from.
Right, yeah. So basically, there are no helm enchants anymore. There are no belt enchants, which were rare anyway. And there are no boot and glove enchants. And now all of the stuff that would have been on those is in the gym transmogrification system. And essentially, instead of having a total crapshoot as to whether or not you're ever going to see your helm enchant, you have a 1 in 3 chance of getting any specific gem. Because like there's a whole bunch of patterns in the labyrinth that you can craft. One of them is put in like a red gem, get back a random red gem from like 1 of 3 red gems that you're offered. But then one of them is like, I put in this gem and I get 1 of the 3 transmog versions of that gem.
Mm-hmm.
So
among other things, this seems like it should make in like low demand gems more valuable.
Right. So like other than the couple of places where maybe builds were destroyed by this patch, it will be universally better for most players, I think.
I honestly haven't looked at how it affects the build that I was planning on playing, if at all.
So you're not doing Cold Dot, right?
I was, yeah, Vortex Creeping Frost.
It got destroyed.
Oh, wonderful. All right.
Well, again, I don't know if this is going to be one of the an alternate quality version takes care of this problem, because so remember in the video they talked about, oh hey, we're going to make Frost Bomb a instant ability so you can use it as a main damage ability.
I thought that was one of the alternate versions of it.
Yes, that was one of the alternate versions of Frost Bomb.
Yes.
But the normal Vortex is kind of like Frost Bomb was, where it is you can only cast this every so often ability.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can't just click it all the time.
Because yeah, like that's
your primary damage dealing ability.
You're running around with it on left click, so you're just dropping swirling.
Yep.
Yeah, if that's.
So hopefully that's going to be another situation where that's going to be an alternate quality of old school Vortex.
So basically, the short version is they've upended the entire meta for their game.
Yeah,
more than they've ever done in a single patch previously.
Like there were people that have been complaining for the last 2 leagues that there wasn't enough meta shakeup, and this basically just like
monkey's paw is what you get.
Exactly. This is I dropped the box of specs and they've landed all over the place.
So I'm
kind of here for this.
I am mostly here for this. I will pour one out for the Requiem of Pohx, who is the person who has been like and I would be really curious to see if they have any idea how important Pohx is to onboarding new players.
Right. That's the thing that like I literally the day before this came out said something in my blog that I thought Righteous Fire was untouchable, not because the build itself is untouchable, just because of the place that it holds in the Path of Exile community. Like it is the onboarding process for this game.
At the same time, like maybe now there are enough other build guides that are decent enough that they feel like they don't necessarily need to shield the one well-written guide.
Show me some of these decently written build guides.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have never seen another one anywhere near as good as Pohx's.
Not to the degree of Pohx's, I will grant you. But like I was able to read through the build guide from Maxroll and at least like pretty much get to the end. And be totally fine. And like I had a very successful season based off of that build guide.
Right.
Yeah, I've read other guides and like it's been fine. You know, it's not like the best ever.
Too many guides in Path of Exile sort of assume you already are very in-depth familiar with Path of Exile.
Right. Nearly every guide does. Yeah.
And that's the advantage that Pohx's guide had. And I do think some of the max roll guides are at least a little bit better about it.
Well, they got better this league. Like last league, they weren't that good. They were very much insider baseball.
And I
on a
do
lot of the
remember
builds.
multiple times early on in this league, you asking a question, and it was like, oh, the guide assumed that you knew this thing that, of course, every PoE player knows.
Yep. It's definitely a thing where I would have to still ask a whole bunch of questions because there's so much to learn with PoE.
Yeah.
I am sad for RF getting nerfed though. It was I think that its ultimate downfall is that it's probably too non-interactive.
Probably.
And
I mean, based on hearing stuff about it, that's why I never picked it up. I like to press buttons.
I mean, I press buttons too, but not to the level that, oh God, I didn't push this button, now I'm dead. I mean, I made it. Look, the problem with RF is it's very survivable. It's not great at killing things. I got to level 29 around whatever phase 29 in a simulacrum, but like I ultimately gave up because it was taking too long to kill the boss. It never could have killed me, but it would have taken me 20 minutes to kill the damn boss on round 29.
Mhm.
So I just gave up.
See, as I never have seen round 29 because I am not that survivable.
Like I died once on round 27 just because I kind of got overwhelmed temporarily. But like by the time I gave up, I had 5 portals left. But anyway, I mostly feel for Pohx because like Pohx has been really good for the community, and now he's gonna have to figure out how to salvage RF if he wants to even play RF. Maybe this is the time Pohx stops playing RF. I don't know.
Maybe he'll switch to ARC.
The memes have been funny because like the one that's been floating around lately has been the first time at the hanging, and it's got Inky as the one saying first time, and Pohx is the new person.
Because Inky was apparently the ARC main, I guess.
Yep. And it also had a similarly storied history of being a really good guide for people to follow.
Well, now apparently ARC is back. It got some buffs.
Sort of. I think it's like, well, I mean, it may be back. Like, I think previously it had turned into a conduit build.
I mean, ARC Conduit is fun. That is a fun series of buttons to press.
I'm super looking forward to both Ultimatum being back and the new Affliction event, because they both look really cool.
The Affliction event is super interesting. It's like step-based, like you are in a dark forest. You have a certain number of steps you're able to take to like clear out the darkness, and once you've cleared out so much of the darkness, you teleport back to your normal map. And so it's like, can you explore enough? And there's apparently like clues you can find on the ground to tell you like, hey, maybe go check this way to find something interesting.
Right. Yeah. There's like these colored wisp paths that if you follow those will apparently lead to something. And can you get to that something before you run out of time? And apparently certain mobs inside will give you back wisp power, so that you can kind of eventually sustain and go further as a result of taking out specific encounters.
And if you find special wisps, blue, purple, and yellow, they exit the map with you and go inhabit enemies in the map. And those wisps make the enemies more powerful and more rewarding.
Yep. So basically the Sentinel effect.
So it's the Sentinel effect. My one criticism of this, the other thing that you're doing is you have these 3 different explorers of the forest that are there to like, they want you to go fight their big nasty things they're hunting. And to assist you, they give you a new ascendancy, which gives you a whole bunch of new options to specialize your character that go on top of your current ascendancy. And there are 2 of them that are really interesting with odd things that you can do. And there's one that's boring and good.
Right. There is the universally correct choice.
Yeah.
It sure seems like it, yeah.
Oof, that like you
Boy,
would
there's
have
nothing I dislike more than boring and good.
Yup.
Because like the one path is basically, would you like to have slightly watered down versions of ascendancies from other classes in the game?
Mhm.
And would you like multiple of these?
And the answer to that is yes, please. Because the other two paths, like they seem really interesting. Like one of them is you can replace some of your flasks with tinctures that you could use that give your attacks special abilities. And like there's one that's really good for AoE and one that's really good for single target. And you can do stuff to like use them to make your other flasks more powerful. And that's all neat. And then there's another one that involves like devouring corpses to get a buff against enemies of the same type. And you can like buy corpses from the powerful dudes so that you can carry your own corpses into a map and devour them. And then there's the one where you can just build your own set of ascendancy powers.
On top
tailored
of the
to
on
your
top of
build.
the ones you already have, and also can still use Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh to steal ascendancies from other powers too.
Yeah.
And I also have to stress, it's not only the most powerful, but it's also the most convenient because the other thing you get is more item slots.
Yes.
I mean,
you get an extra
you get a little
bag.
backpack. Yeah.
I'm absolutely going to play it. I'm going to be so frustrated.
Well, and like I was looking forward to this as RF because like I am basically hitting Warcry on cooldown, and one of them is basically the ability from Diablo 2 where barbarian shouts get free loot from corpses. But also it opens chests, which would have been so broken on Blight maps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna shout open all my Blight pods without having to manually click all of them.
Oh, interesting. I don't, because I play controller, that's not a really annoying thing for me. I just have to get somewhat close to it and press A, and they mostly all open.
Yeah, you just have to tap A bunch of times.
Yeah. I was going to say it would be very good in breaches, which would still be
Right.
good for me in breaches because
I hate clicking those damn hands.
It's hard to it's if you're fighting actively, it can be hard when one of your fight buttons is also your open hand button.
Right.
But I think it's going to be cool. I really like the theme. My build didn't get touched, so I think I'm a little bit higher on this patch.
I mean, I was over the moon about this patch until I realized, oh crap, I don't get to play RF. But again, like maybe one of the other gym qualities, and I'll just have to run the lab to get it, and that'll be fine.
I mean, I think there was after the like reveal, they had a streamer on. I don't know who that was, if that's like somebody who's closely aligned.
Ziggy D?
Yeah. Is he part of Grinding Gear Games or like
no, but he's kind of like the unofficial spokesperson for the community when I mean, so
yeah, I kind of
he does the commentary on all of them. He was at Exile Con and
okay. He definitely brings some opinions from, I'm guessing, a certain segment of the community that I get like very annoyed with. Because he's like, hey, it looks like you're putting all of this stuff in Labyrinth, but the community hates Labyrinth.
I mean, I hate Labyrinth.
I love Labyrinth.
There's a lot of people that hate Labyrinth.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Lab runners would not exist were it not for the fact that a large chunk of the community hates Labyrinth.
But also, you just told me the reason that we should put stuff in Labyrinth and make Labyrinth better.
Well, I mean, they didn't make Labyrinth better. They just put carrots at the end of Labyrinth, so now you have to do it. It's still not a fun game mode.
But now I get to do it, and I get to feel rewarded for doing it, because it is a fun game mode. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right?
Well, y'all also like Sanctum.
I know. Whoa. I need to get a Sandstorm Visage out of Sanctum. Let me be very clear. I do Sanctum for the rewards. I do Lab because I love it, and I don't do it as much, mostly because I don't feel rewarded by it.
I've run a lot of Lab because I've tried to get Helm enchants, and like I ran 60 labs in a row and never found my Helm enchant. So whatever they've done to do it basically a 1 in 3 to get your correct gem is going to greatly improve my enjoyment of lab. Just having a reasonable chance of getting the thing I wanted is instantly a better experience. Like, I can do lab, I just don't enjoy lab.
This is like the most hashtag game development back and forth I've heard.
I am willing to run lab, but it is not a thing I enjoy.
I think Sanctum is heartbreaking because I think it's even more restrictive than lab, and I kind of like their solution to Sanctum was like, hey, there's going to be a whole lot less tomes, so
I would not be shocked if they stealth nerfed the rewards as well, because they also said it was going to be harder to get some of the things to drop, the relics to drop that gave you the outrageous rewards.
Okay, so you're saying they're probably you think they're going to nerf like the drop rate of probably room reveals.
Yeah. So they nerfed 2 of the drop rates, and I think they were the things that let you see all the rooms, and also the thing that like double the outcome.
Labyrinth is, just to make sure that I have the right thing.
Yep.
Labyrinth is the one that it's the time travel one.
No, that's Incursion. Labyrinth is
where you have to go to get your ascendancies.
Yeah.
Oh, I also love Labyrinth. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So at the end of the Labyrinth, you know how there's that little ultra where it's like, put an item in here to get some slight random enchant on it. So once you get to the max level, all of the labs have really powerful helm enchants in the previous version. Like,
Yep. Nope. I'm up to speed. I want to run more of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it always felt like a waste of time.
Well, the problem is that because you had to have like the item on hand in order to enchant it, like that was terrible. But now, no matter what, you get to carry what you have out of the labyrinth.
Yeah, it was just dumb. Like I ran 60 labs trying to find my helm enchant, but in order for me to feel like I was doing something worthwhile during that time, I got a quad tab and I started just chucking decent bases for helmets that I found down in Delve, because Delve produces just a ton of decent high-level bases. So like I had this quad tab full of hats that anytime I would get, run a lab and not get the thing I wanted, I would at least try and put it on a relevant base, and then I would have a helm with that enchant on a base that would make sense for those builds. But it always felt like it was so, I don't know, like it was this whole ordeal of having to make sure you had a helm, or like the thing I would do is I would log into every single one of my characters, and I had like 6 of them when I was running lab this league, and take off all their helms just in case like one of their helm enchants happened into it.
Yeah, one of the things that I think has been maybe, I don't know if it's stated or if it's just like evident by what they're doing from the developers, is they want to get rid of things that you can't trade. They want to make the economy more tradable. So stuff like helm enchants are a thing where previously the only way you could trade it is if like you signed up as a service where like you give a lab runner your helmet and then put a down payment, and then they say, cool, I'm going to run lab a whole bunch. If I see the helmet enchant you want, I'll apply it, and then you can pay me the rest for this.
Right.
Like, that's not a good trading experience. So now the goal is, well, whatever happens, like I get something out, I can put it up on the trade site and somebody can then purchase it from me.
I feel like the next one of these to go is going to be Betrayal, because Betrayal is also a heavy services economy.
That would make sense. At least Betrayal is something where you can just invite someone in.
Right.
It's
but
not
like, but selling like Varici or selling, Ashling or something like that is very much like it's fiddly.
They could throw Betrayal into the sea and rework it completely, and I would not be sad.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. Like,
Betrayal
I like the enchants that you get from Betrayal, but like, I don't love Betrayal as a mechanic.
Betrayal is the thing that I routinely am like playing on my Steam Deck and like, oh, there's a Betrayal. All right, let me see if I can pull up my spreadsheet on my phone. Oh, which one do I need? Okay, this is the 322 one. Yep, these are the good things I care about. Because Betrayal has like, 25 different characters in 4 different locations. And so that's 100 different possible rewards based on which characters are in which location. And so it's all about putting the right ones in the right place, and I am angry.
Also, each of those rewards can go from level 1 to level 4.
Yep.
And I am angry.
Like, it's kind of a miserable mechanic, and once I think I have all my unveils for a league, I will often do the first Betrayal mechanic in a map and never question the person, which will stop the other ones from spawning.
Oh, interesting.
And just move on with my map like it didn't even have Betrayal.
I do. I have a hilarious thing where. So I'm doing challenges for the 322, the Ancestor League. And one of the challenges I did was Crucible Custodian, which is the pinnacle. All of the pinnacle bosses have fragments that drop from pre-pinnacle bosses, which are maps.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the Hydra, the Phoenix, the Baron, and like the Purifier, those types of maps. The challenge is do 6 of those maps. Each of those maps needs to be tier 16. Each of those maps needs to have 5 Delirium Orbs attached. Each of those maps needs to have 4 Gilded Scarabs. And each of those maps needs to be item quant 100 or above. This turns out to create a map that is awful.
Yep.
So I would always make sure that I forced some master other than June into those maps.
Right, so you don't just get randomly killed.
so
you don't get
just
ambushed.
get assassinated. Oh my goodness. It was a very fun challenge. I really do love the challenges that they offer, and like how they encourage you to play Path of Exile in a way you may not be comfortable with, and discover, hey, this game can ramp itself up if you want it to.
Well, like, those challenges ultimately were the thing that first got me to actually dive into some of the league mechanics. Because, like, you kind of have to just respec your character for a few of them.
Yeah.
Not respec your character, but respec your Atlas.
Yes, I respect my Atlas like 20 times this league. And that was actually one of them. I respect my Atlas into maximizing item quant and modifiers on maps. This led to a really interesting scenario where actually what I was mostly running was blue versions of those maps. Because if I got to item quant 48 on the map, that was enough for me to get up to 100 based off of my Atlas. And so I could just alt spam until I found affixes that wouldn't murder me, which are few and far between when you're at 5 layers of Delirium and a pre-pinnacle boss. Also, I'm a very squishy build. I will say, Bill, I think you should try Bone Shatter. I don't, because it seems like the thing you like most about RF is the unkillable nature of it.
It is. It really is.
Bone Shatter is just as unkillable.
I mean, and to be fair, like, that's what I want in every character. Like, every game I want to play the thing that can just shrug off damage, just because that's my player fantasy in a game, is to be the unkillable tank. And RF was that in an ARPG.
My only thing, I don't know how Bone Shatter does in Del, which I know you love.
No, Bone Shatter is absolutely like it's even a deep delver once you throw on like a Mage Blood or something like that.
Oh, well. I will say, I've done just a little bit about it, but like it looks pretty freaking tanky, especially if you manage to get the 4th Val version running. Plus, it's still a Juggernaut, and I know how much you love Juggernaut.
They have some fun ascendancy abilities. They have very just don't take damage abilities.
I mean, just don't take damage is my solution to everything. Oh, you mean like take hits and not take damage?
Yeah. Shrug off the hits.
Oh, we're talking about two different things here.
My goal is don't be where the bad is. Ideally, kill the bad while it's off the screen.
That works great until you run into the bad that spawns in off the screen and then alpha strikes you beyond.
Yeah, because that was the thing that was cracking me up the other day when Ash was talking about how awful beyond mobs were, and like as an RF player, they're not that bad.
Yeah, if you have the health and defenses to take an alpha strike from all these mobs firing simultaneously, yeah, it's great. But most builds can't do that.
Whatever. Beyond mobs, I've now learned what the beyond like summoning animation looks like, because I had beyond happen in one of those T16 pre-pinnacle maps with Delirium, and let me tell you that when beyond is one of the mechanics there, you get a lot of beyond summons because there are so many enemies in that map.
Yeah, it's basically like beyond is, did you just kill a pack? And oh no, here's a whole new pack. Yeah, you got some beyond mobs.
But for me, if I see the summoning animation, I just drop a minefield, and then that kills them.
Well, and also Beyond is less awful than it was a few leagues back. Beyond was the thing that put me off of Kalandra back in Kalandra League.
Kalandra was still kind of awful, to be honest. Like when we did the Blast from the Past event, the difference between like a tier 3 area and a tier 7 area was extreme, and those could sometimes be pretty close to each other, so it felt weird to have such wildly ramping difficulty in the same map. Like I had some nostalgia about the mechanic of building the lake, but after getting to play with it again and knowing a little bit more about what I'm doing, yeah, no, Kalandra never needs to make a return. It was a bad idea.
It's a silly place.
Just to have a map that is that wildly different in difficulty levels.
Yeah, but you kind of know what it's going to be.
Yeah, but like not all tiles are created equal. Sometimes it's more difficult than you even think it should be.
Well, that's true, but like that's why I liked where I started getting to the point where I kind of knew what tiles I was putting down and like knew, well, this is going to be bad because these enemies are mean to me.
Yeah. I don't like it was fine, and I ran a lot of it, because why not? We've got access to it for a short period of time. But like, I'm okay if that one doesn't ever make it back.
I do want to quickly mention what they spent a decent chunk of time on beforehand. There was another PoE 2 teaser and discussion, and this time they showcased a quote unquote crossbow. It sure behaves like a crossbow.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to play Path of Duty? You can now play Path of Duty.
It's a crossbow with a undermount grenade launcher, fully automatic, like and
or shotgun, or rocket launcher, or sniper rifle.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Crossbow.
In Path of Exile?
Path of Exile 2.
Path of Exile 2.
Ah.
The marksman.
Yeah. No, the mercenary.
Mercenary.
They displayed it on the mercenary. I'm curious if it's going to be mercenary specific or if I'm going to be able to play it on my saboteur.
No, apparently you can use those abilities, those weapons on any class, they said.
Yeah, okay.
That came out of the Ziggy D Q&A.
Rad. I'm definitely going to have a quote-unquote crossbow. This is like, why did they not want to just call it a gun?
Because, I mean, it's a pseudo-fantasy game. Like, you can't have semi-automatic blunderbuss.
You wouldn't want to mess with the lore.
This is messing with the lore. Like they're like, yeah, even like the official like voiceovers like, and this crossbow's kind of like a sniper rifle. And I'm like, why didn't you just call it a sniper rifle then?
Yeah, and like, I mean, the sniper rifle did armor breaking. And it was like a weapon swap scenario where you can like break the armor with one and then switch over to your semi-auto and just burn them down.
You can play with WASD.
Yep.
Hopefully this means that there's going to be better, more well thought out controller support.
I
Fingers
hope so,
crossed.
because like realistically, I think I'd rather play with a controller than WASD.
Man, yeah.
Because like I've recently played a WASD ARPG, and I forget which one it was, and like, yeah, no, I really like my steer with the mouse while holding down W control scheme, and hopefully I can make PoE do something similar and also have backpedaling support. But if I have to play with WASD, I'll probably just play with the controller. Because like WASD in an ARPG always screws with me because it's never relative to your character, or it's relative to the screen.
Oh, weird.
Because you want to play like the old Resident Evil games.
I want to play where W moves my character forward.
Yes, where you want to play the old Resident Evil controls.
I mean, that's how you control an MMO.
No, it's not.
The controls, well, because the camera's always behind your character.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what makes logical sense to me, not I want to go north, so I'm going to hit I'm going to hit W.
Let me say, with a controller, trying to tank controls sounds like a new level of hell. So if you do decide to do that, please don't do that for controllers.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you just play like the original Resident Evil. Play Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation. It's exactly that.
Yeah, that one didn't wig me out as much as it did most people, I guess. It like made logical sense to me.
Oh, Metamorph is gone now.
Yep. Metamorph as a league mechanic is gone. And you know what? I will kind of miss it because I enjoyed doing it inside of maps, but I hated the bag bloat of all those organs that I had to stop and run by themselves.
All right. What is your hit rate for remembering at the end of the map that it was a Metamorph map and you should call Tane? Because mine was probably about 50%.
Oh, I almost like I would spec into Metamorph so that I would get 2 Metamorphs every map. So like I absolutely did.
I still forgot.
Because he almost always pops up at the end of the map.
I mean, if only if you've found every single body part on the way to the boss. He pops up once you've got every body part that can show up on the map. Then he pops up automatically.
Yeah, but like I would steer my way towards the body part icons because I wanted the body parts.
Yeah, but like, sure. The problem is after, like, especially a rat, if it was a slightly intense boss fight, I'm usually not thinking, oh, I've got more stuff to do. I'm usually thinking, oh, my map is complete. Time to go back.
I mean, my favorite ones, though, were the rogue metamorphs that would just randomly appear in your map.
I definitely killed more rogue metamorphs than I killed actual metamorphs because they presented themselves while I was playing the map. It wasn't something I did after the map was complete.
The problem that I had with going to Tane's area was the fact that like I'd have to exit every couple metamorphs because there'd be too much crap on the screen for me able to see. Because like that little room fills up with loot really fast.
My problem with Tane was the fact that the Atlas support desperately needed something where you could spec into individual body parts. Because
lungs were the hard ones to get.
I have so many lungs. I have no eyes.
Weird. Yeah, because I stole some lungs from the bank the other day. Because lungs were always the one I never could get.
Oh, you probably stole all of my lungs because I had no eyes.
I was just trying to run whatever I could since it was going away.
I'm not going to necessarily... I'm going to miss Tane. I thought his story was at least a little bit interesting, what bit I got from it.
He was a cool-looking NPC. He reminded me of an SCP character.
I mean, I never got much more from him than, oh, okay, you're Frankenstein's monster. Cool.
Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with him going away. The Trial Master looks cooler. the trial master is actually a boss you get to fight at the end of the trial.
Well,
but it does make me wonder if the parts for trial master will still drop.
I'm curious what they're doing with the trial master parts.
Because essentially they don't need to exist, since you're going to get the same thing at the end of 10 rounds. I mean, the biggest change that Kodra didn't know about, that we were talking about before the show, is you can no longer flip gems.
Yeah, I'm coming around on this.
I'm not a big fan of this, because, like, okay, so to explain, flipping gems was leveling a gem to level 20, putting it in the trade window with a GCP,
Gem Cutter's Prism.
Gem Cutter's Prism, and then getting back a 20% level 1 gem.
Right.
And that recipe is gone from the game.
Oh.
The idea is that there's a lot of new and interesting qualities. Quality is going to matter a whole lot more now. So they want to make it meaningful what you decide to invest those Gem Cutter Prisms into.
Okay. Can they give me more than like 3?
Yeah, I'm hoping they've increased the drop rate of GCPs.
Because
they're kind of a pain to get.
Yeah, and this isn't like with armor or weapons or stuff where you can at least like improve the quality before you enchant it so that, you know, you're getting 5 per single item. No, it's 1% per prism spent, and those things are so rare.
I was saying, I imagine that it's going to cause the price of GCPs to probably skyrocket relative to the rest of the league.
Probably.
Okay, now I'm curious. I am logging in to see how many GCPs I have. And I have lots and lots and lots of everything. I have 88 GCPs.
Wow, I have like over 100. So that's interesting.
So 88 prisms. That's enough to max the quality of 4 gems. 4 whole gems.
Yeah, like I have around 600 regrets. I have, you know, in spite of all of my respecking, I have 120 orbs of unmaking. I have over 1,000 scourings. I have, you know, like 1,800 cartographer's chisels, you know, 300 Val orbs. I have 88 Gem Cutter's prisms. Like, it is one of the rarest things I ever find.
Oh, because I prioritized it in Sanctum. Yep, I have a lot of Gem Cutter's prisms because they are a reasonable drop in Sanctums to get.
Yep.
I was like, why do I have so many then? Because I do Sanctum.
It specifically doesn't work with skill gems. So that sounds like maybe you can still use it for support gems. So that's not as awful. Yeah, it looks like it's specifically skill gems that recipe no longer works on. So that sounds like you can still
flip your other
still
gems.
Flip support gems. So that's that's
something.
Because if it was all gems, like, you know, you're running a couple of dozen gems in a full set of armor, but most of those are going to be support gems. So that's less awful.
Okay. It's still going to be a bit of a mess.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, this is the biggest meta shakeups that the game's seen.
Oh, it also doesn't work on awakened support gems.
I am more excited. Hearing this makes me more excited about this league than I have been previously.
I think it'll lead to a lot of interesting experimentation.
I mean, and it's also going to be interesting that we're going to do this as a private league. So that's gonna, like, that's been the greatest source of my concern. Is I knew how to build an RF character. I knew I could successfully build an RF character, and I could easily do it as SSF. Yeah, like we'll figure something out. Right now, I'm leaning towards EA Champ just because I know it's predictable.
Well, and that's sort of the thing for me is, like, part of why I like it is that when you do have those big meta shakeups, the standard for good is a lot lower. So you don't have to. You have to, like, lower your standards for what good is, because you can't achieve what you did before because you don't know how, or, like, you're not going to be in the right position. So it actually feels like good is attainable.
And see, like for me, I want to do that with my experimental characters. Because like I leveled technically 8 characters this last league, but I respect one of them 4 times. So they were essentially 4 different builds. So like, I don't know, I had like 12 unique character plays through Path of Exile this past league. And like, I really want one that is stable and predictable and could go get me stuff. And then I want to build experimental characters after that. And I think EA Champion will be predictable and will be able to let me go get stuff out of whatever game mode I want to play to make experimental characters later. And maybe I'll make a bone shatter like Kodra suggested. And maybe you'll fall in love with it.
Yeah, and I guess for me, like, the biggest worry I had is playing in this league and feeling like I'm just being carried the whole time versus actually meaningfully contributing.
I think everybody's going to meaningfully contribute.
Well, that's like the kind of thing that you get in this like wildly meta-shifted situation.
Well, but part of that's also the private league thing, because like without access to Trade League, I can't buy my way out of problems. So I'll need to rely on the group, maybe finding something I haven't found yet. Like I'm already planning some crafting projects, because like I know if I play EA and Grace plays EA, we're probably going to want Reign of Splinters, and that involves just corrupting every red gem you get your hands on.
Yep.
So I plan on like throwing a quad tab together for just red gems. And at some point, once I'm done getting all the red maps and no longer need Val Orbs for that, I will corrupt the entire damn tab.
I mean, you
Hopefully
can buy
some
red gems though, right?
No, red jewels. Sorry, not gems.
Oh, crimson jewels.
Crimson jewels,
Yes.
yeah. Because the Reign of Splinters is one of the possible jewels that you can get from corrupting any red jewel in the game. Sorry, I keep saying gem, but people use gem for spells. I think of them as gems. I think of the things we socket into gear as spells.
Ah, okay. I was like, what
This is like you with bindings and fusings.
I flip them constantly because to me, binding all the slots together is a binding, not a fusing.
I will say that like I don't play nearly as much even as Bell does, but there is still a whole bunch of stuff that you could do that is extremely valuable and unique. Like honestly, we're probably going to get to the point where Bell puts just a whole bunch of maps, specialized maps that he doesn't feel like running, and us running those is going to bring in resources that we otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, like the key difference between this league and private league is I plan on just mostly using the guild map tab as my map tab. I'm going to try my best not to dump things in my own stash. Because like right now, I have gotten so used to hitting my stash that I'm constantly throwing stuff in there. Even though I was trying to shift it, like it's just second nature for me to throw stuff in my stash tab quickly.
Well, and I'm thinking like even if you look at our guild stash tab right now, it is absolutely lousy with like blight maps that no one's done because
right.
that no one's doing that content. It's not something we're doing, but like there's definitely loot to be realized there.
Well, I mean, and you also end up generating so many more maps than you can ever run.
I've also just like never completed an atlas.
That's a good first start.
Much less like gone through the entire. Like I just sort of put points in randomly in the atlas tree because I can't be bothered.
It's not a bad idea at the start, and then like what I originally was thinking was like, oh, I need to figure out how I'm going to optimize my atlas, and what I'm realizing now is my atlas is so flexible that it doesn't really matter what goes in it at the start.
Yeah, I mean, an atlas is a good atlas strategy is a combination of a handful of things that you want to run. And then you just like put all the points in that one thing. And then when you get sick of running that one thing, you refund all the points that were in that and put them into a different thing. I will probably go Betrayal and Expedition early just to get enchants. And Expedition tends to go pretty well with Betrayal because they're close to each other.
Interesting. I'm probably going to go... I mean, I might go Delve early just because I want to get a Curse on Hit Ring.
Yeah. I mean, Delve is going to be one of those things that I have to break my way into. Because it takes a long time to get your resists up enough to do Delve. Just, you have to farm a bunch of Azurite nodes before you realistically have enough spent in the mine device to be able to survive. But I mean, I should be down at 150-ish pretty early.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Honestly, everyone who is playing is it's really hard to be a negative consumer of resources in this game. This game wants to generate resources. And so every single person playing in our league is going to be contributing to the league's overall success.
Yup.
This is why Trade League is busted.
Yeah, and this is the thing is I mean, it's gonna be like Trade. It's just amongst ourselves. I know I'm gonna be throwing stuff on our trade, because I have way more vault space than the guild does.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm interested in is going to be working with people, and our economy is going to be very different because it's not going to be fungible. It's there's the most popular build in the league cares about this item, so I'm going to try and get this item. No, I'm going to know that Tam's build cares about this thing, so I'm going to try and get this thing.
Well, I mean, for example, I plan on having a quad tab that is just reasonable resist gear.
Yeah.
And throw it I think the lowest price that you can throw on an item and still have it show up on the trade side is a wisdom scroll.
Sure.
So, but in theory, anybody can go out to the trade site and search only our league.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So that, do you need a resist? Okay. Bell has a tab full of resist crap. Go shopping. Let me know which ring of these you need to fix your resists. Because, that's the one thing about Delve is once it's running, it is just good at producing generic, decent, rare gear. So many resist rings. So I almost started a fight with Kodra before the show. I didn't really think I was starting a fight, but apparently they were fighting words. Because I said GW2 feels more ARPG than MMO to me.
GW2 feels like the most MMO game on the market right now. What are you talking about? What other game?
But we are talking about different definitions.
Yeah, but okay, so what's MMO stand for, Bell?
Holy Trinity of to me, an MMO game is you play Holy Trinity of characters.
What do the letters MMO stand for? I didn't say Deku game.
I don't know anymore. It gets used so generically.
Massively multiplayer online. What game makes you feels massive multiplayer more than Guild Wars 2?
But you also have to understand, when I say the word ARPG, I specifically mean a Diablo-like.
Sure. But
whereas, Devil May Cry is technically an action role-playing game.
I do get what you're saying, but if I'm thinking about a big, vibrant online world, those are the things that are an MMORPG. Guild Wars 2 is absolutely that. No other game is getting me to play with other people and working towards big collaborative things like Guild Wars 2 does.
Yeah.
But you are going around doing the same things to get big loot drops, most of which are garbage.
Exactly. And you build your character in a manner in which you would spec out an ARPG character.
Yeah.
Dell cares about loot.
I care about loot and character specs.
Yep. And in Guild Wars 2, mostly when loot drops, you immediately disenchant it.
I mean, to me, I just despair because it really crystallizes to me how much the pre-WoW MMO space has just been utterly forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah, because Ultima Online, you weren't killing things for loot. Loot was crafted. Good loot, it was crafted.
It wasn't, here's a game with explicitly defined party roles, and you are going to be making your number go up in the most hyper-capitalist way possible. Like, it's not a game about make number go up forever.
I mean, but to me, like, playing Guild Wars 2 tweaks the same center in my brain that playing Path of Exile does. I have a character. I am loosely seeking different kinds of loot. I can do different activities to obtain different kinds of loot more easily. Like, there's lots of different, we can call them league mechanics. Like, I've been closing a lot of Cryptus Rifts. They are a very specific kind of thing that you do that just happens to exist in the world. But if you're doing a bunch of them, you can just follow a train and do nothing but them.
No, I definitely get what Bell's saying. Loot's very important in Guild Wars 2 because all I really care about is like focusing on this specific thing so I can get loot that makes me look cool. What are you talking? The loot in Guild Wars 2 is probably like the weakest part for me because like I have the gear that I have had for probably 6 years now and it's not changing and it's not going to change.
But playing content feels the same way as playing ARPG content where I'm accumulating a lot of loot. It may or may not be interesting, but loot numbers go burr.
I mean,
MMORPG.
There you go.
Coin in the term.
And maybe an item will drop with a skin that you don't already have unlocked.
Exactly. That's the best.
Because Fashion Wars is the real game.
Like, legitimately, nothing makes me happier than seeing an unlock I didn't already have.
Yeah, I'm just dusting all of that stuff so that I can try and get closer to hope.
Well, that's the great thing is the thing drops and you unlock the skin and then you turn it into Ectos.
Yeah.
I have so many Ectos.
Except for I don't usually actually unveil my rare items. I just tend to sell those on the market.
Bags. You sell them.
No, okay. I sell the rares on the market because they're mathematically worth more as an unopened item than me getting the.
Like you sell them on the
because
trade?
You need more money.
I do need more money.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not comfortable with my money in this game.
I hadn't considered that option. I probably should have. I
cashed out my kale because why do I need kale?
I mean, if you
I already have my turtle.
Yeah. No, from that point on, you just sell it.
No, this is very reasonable. I am still extremely poor, trying to make my first legendary, but I don't know. Like,
I'm trying to get good enough at the trade economy to become a robber baron in this game, just like I was becoming a fledgling robber baron in Path of Exile.
Boo.
I will never get to anywhere near the level of the big traders in Guild Wars 2.
Oh my goodness.
No, they have quite the jump on the rest of us.
They're quite wealthy,
Been doing this for years.
It's for me, the thing that draws me to Guild Wars 2 is when I am doing cool events, big zone meta events, nothing reminds me more of raiding than Guild Wars 2. Nothing is doing as good. And honestly, it's the whole effect where this is probably better than raiding ever actually was in old games. And I'm just like experiencing the joy with like a much better game and having the rose tinted glasses on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like metas are so good, and also you can just hop into them at any point without having to, schedule 40 other human beings to actually come do this thing with you.
But also they have the same vibe. They have the same feeling, and like they're also really hard. Like they definitely like make you think, hey, it's not just a foregone conclusion. Like you have to work for it.
Yeah, there's enough skill and required, and you have to like do the right things, but not to such an extreme that you have to have a pre-made group that all knows their specific role.
Correct.
And like you can have individuals in the group fail and still succeed at the overall event.
Well,
I don't need to have a software engineer on staff in order to write the mods I need in order to succeed at the raid.
Yes.
Well, and there's so many of them that like I love the fact when you can go back and do one that you've not done in a really long time and you kind of marvel at how good it is. Because I did Echo Vault Wilds the other day, and like
that was so much fun.
It's a really good event, and like I never do it, but it was on the weekly, so I mean, might as well try.
Time to beat up a giant robot in a junkyard.
It's not rude to suck.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to some people, they'll say it was. But...
Yeah, well, there's always going to be someone.
I mean, sure, there are people who would like to make it rude to suck, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty easy. I mean, like realistically, for the most part, save one, zone metas are a lot like 40-player rating was in World of Warcraft, where if you had 20 players that are paying attention, you could get through the raid.
Yeah.
Is the one still Student One, or is there a harder one?
Yeah, no, that one's still...
Okay. I still was like, when I finished doing that, I was like, how did we actually succeed at this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the only one I've ever failed more than one or two times.
I wasn't sure if Path of Obscure had any new zone metas that were extremely hard to crack.
No, it's the new one is just about perfect. Like it is challenging enough to, I mean, it's like, it reminds me of Octavine, where you have to do something to like, you have to pay attention.
I failed Octavine more than once, let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, most of the times I failed Octavine, it was because I was in a zone where there just weren't enough people.
This is true. I have failed Octavine on like the second or third map. I've also succeeded at Octavine on the second or third map, so I still try it.
Yeah, I mean, no, if you've got people who all know what they're doing, like you can actually do it with really small groups.
What I mean by like Octavine is like, okay, so if there is one side that is lagging behind, the other three groups have enough players that can rapidly get over to that side to make sure that shifts over to a win. And I mean, like, so like there's ways that the really good players can carry more than their actual weight in a lot of the metas.
I really love Octavine, and I hope that it's also my favorite loot opening experience.
Yes, it's so fun to go through and open all the chests.
Like, I know I was saying that loot doesn't matter, but the loot in Octavine matters especially more, even if it's not that great. So there's just all of those chests. Tasty, tasty chests.
Yeah, I think our definitions are just not entirely in line.
Well, I think I get
you're
what
looking
you're
at different elements.
We're looking at different elements. Yeah. You're viewing like the way a character gets built as like less strict. Like in Guild Wars 2 character design is way less like you're going to fill a specific role. It's much more like, what is your character doing? Like, what's the balance of the various stats you need in order for your character to succeed? And like, what are the combos that you're trying to pull off with this character?
Most MMORPGs are, I am playing a samurai. A samurai does this one thing. Yeah, I am playing a holy priest. A holy priest does this one thing.
Whereas I am playing an engineer, and specifically I am playing an engineer who is a mechanist, and specifically I am playing an engineer who is a mechanist and also using dual pistols, so I'm probably a Condi DPS mechanist.
And if you decide you want to play a different sort of mechanist, it's relatively trivial to switch over.
Yes. And in fact, I do play, I mean, I have my PvP mechanist who is much more deep controlling, using like using like more defensive stats and also using a mace, because that adds good stuns to my 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think partially like for me it was Guild Wars 2 didn't really click until I stopped thinking of it as an MMORPG and started thinking of it as an ARPG.
I can see that.
Because those were specific shut-off valves in my brain, I guess, for what those things meant.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more action in it. Like, there's a whole lot less concept of tanking. Usually, it's you're doing a lot more active dodging.
Right.
Please get out of the fire. Yes, even you.
Yeah, like pretty much, unless there's a green circle, you just don't want to be standing in the damage. It's very rare that you would intentionally stay in a place where there's going to be a hit.
It depends if you actually have a healer, and like maybe it's more important to stand in front of the healer than try and move away from the fire.
Oh, sure.
But it also depends.
It also depends on the
healer.
attack and the healer.
Because some healers really care about healing in a specific direction. Some healers heal in an aura. This game is very diverse, and knowing how to play with other people is important.
But mostly, like, you can tell me, oh, I am playing a ranger, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, no, and I mean, most people are going to be like, define like what is the thing that your character is trying to do up front, and then like what are the elite specs, if any, that your character is using. Like, that's why I would say I'm a Condi DPS mechanist. I make the things go burn. But really, I'm going to try and play any class that has access to a pistol, because I want to get hope and I want to put that skin on everything.
Well, and that's about to be a lot more classes. So
it's about to be one more class?
2.
Oh, I knew about Guardian.
Elementalist.
I should see what Elementalist pistol. Has there been a preview for that one yet? I should take a look.
It looks like.
Pretty sure there's a new weapons preview in game right now.
Yeah, there's a beta going on right now that allows you to roll characters and play with weapons.
Yep, looks like it is a conditioned weapon with elemental bullets.
Pew pew, things go fire.
I'm into it.
I'll be a gun mage, I guess. That's cool.
I'm always into being a gun mage.
I mean, gun necro is really fun.
Necro is really fun.
Gun necro is pretty sweet.
It's so good.
I wanted to do Guardian because I knew Guardian was getting it, and I was excited because that meant I could theoretically do gun main hand and torch offhand. I need to see if that's even reasonable, but I think that aesthetically is something I'm into.
I mean, I'm going to run around probably with a gun and a sword on a necro, and I don't even know if that's a viable thing, but I kind of want to do it anyway.
You're going to buckle that swash?
I am, in fact, going to buckle that necrotic swash.
Get like a ghost pirate thing going on there.
I was just saying, I would throw so much money at the screen if I had pet skins. It just, it just cracked me up earlier because, like, Kodra was going to fight, and I didn't expect to have made such a controversial decision.
I mean, you're saying that what is, in my opinion, the most MMO game out there is not an MMO. I would be hard-pressed to define a game that I more think of as an MMO right now than the existence of Guild Wars 2.
The game that you can just drop in and immediately be playing with a bunch of people?
Yes. So many MMOs aren't about playing with other people as much anymore.
Yeah, I feel like Guild Wars 2 is still, like, of the various supposedly massively multiplayer games that I play, like, it's the one where I will actually be moving around the world, and it actually feels like there are lots of other players.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only one that I will go out of my way to res people in.
That too. It's the one where I actively seek out other players. It makes my playtime better when there are other people around.
I need to get more comfortable at using my commander tag.
I feel like for you, it's this game is more of an ARPG in a character design, and I can understand. The characters are a little weird.
Yep. I mean, that's really what I was saying. Not that this isn't a massively online game. But like, I need to get more comfortable using my commander tag because it can do amazing things.
It can make all the peoples come to you.
Well, like, there's been several situations where I've been in a map and someone was trying to get something done, and I finally relented after listening to them ask in chat for a while for an uncomfortable amount of time, and all it took was me tagging up and putting on a commander tag, and the thing that they were trying to do just gets instantly done.
Mm-hmm. It is a magnet.
Like, Guild Wars 2 is a game about players desperately seeking someone to lead them.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do that, you can abuse that power.
Yep. In general, if players see a commander tag, their assumption is, aha, something is happening there. I should go find out what. And
they know what they're doing.
This incidentally reminds me of when I was playing a warlord in the like Living Society Forgotten Realms games in 4th edition. I was always like, oh man, people are gonna really resent me like telling them what to do and like issuing commands. And then I got there and it's like everyone's like, oh, you're the warlord, tell us what we're doing this fight. And I was like, sweet, okay.
Let me offload that responsibility onto you, please.
I just feel like there's a lot of things that I don't know yet to feel really comfortable putting on the leader hat. There's some things I can absolutely lead people through. Not everything. World commanders are a very special breed of people, and I greatly appreciate them. So we kind of accidentally did an entire show. I don't know how big of a topic this last topic is.
It's not that big. It's
okay.
It's more a thing. Like, so, I think I mentioned a little bit back that Star Citizen's single player mode, Squadron 42, is evidently in its polish phase.
Right. It's feature complete.
Feature complete. And as a result, a bunch of their staff has been coming over to the online portion of the game. And the pace of updates this year compared to the last 2 years has been much higher. And it's been interesting because a lot of these have been systemic updates. Not super surprising when you're talking about feature complete, but it's interesting to see. And the thing that I've been kind of following is they're making a bunch of systemic changes that are doing a lot of really interesting, subtle things to the moment-to-moment game experience. So one of the things that I've spent a decent amount of time going around doing is going around hunting bounties. Basically, what this does is it's a game mode where you take your combat ship out, you blow up ostensibly criminal enemy ships, and collect money for doing so. And this has been a pretty stale game mode for a while. It's fun because you go around blowing up people, but the experience is relatively stale because you're kind of for a really long time, the way the bounties are broken up is you've got difficulty tiers, and the difficulty tiers had 4 to 6 ships that you might see, and that's just not enough to keep it interesting. And so they put together a thing they talked about it briefly, which I think is really funny. They basically cage matched every ship in the game against every other ship in the game and stack ranked them based on how NPCs fly them, made some tweaks based on the rate at which players would get killed by them, and otherwise retooled all of the difficulty tiers to be able to draw from the pool of every ship in the game, which is good for variety. But the other piece of that I find really interesting is that it means that it's a lot more. It used to be just combat ships that would show up. So you would go in your combat ship, fight other things that were classed as combat ships, and that was it. But now you can get a bunch of ships that aren't that. including things like mining ships and cargo ships. And those can be full of stuff. And that stuff is worth money.
So
and because it was, as far as the game is concerned, acquired illegally, there's no part of the game. There's no part of the game that's going to penalize you from a legal standpoint for taking it.
So suddenly just blowing the ship up is maybe not the best option.
Yeah, or if you blow the ship up, some of the cargo is going to survive. But it does suggest that it's maybe worth being a little bit more precise about how you blow a ship up. But also, more importantly, you need somewhere to put that loot if you want to collect it. And fighters aren't it. Most fighters have a cockpit and that's it. So the most optimal ships for blowing up other ships are not the most optimal ships for making money blowing up other ships. And it is really, really interesting seeing how that changes a lot of people's approach to the game. Because you can be because it's actually quite hard, especially at the higher tiers, to be so efficient at blowing up ships that you come out ahead of the person who is blowing them up less quickly and with more risk because your ship isn't a dedicated fighter, but can collect all the cargo. Because a lot of times, again, you're dealing with criminals. A lot of the time, that cargo is real valuable, and you can luck out and get a huge payout.
I'm now curious. Is the cargo that the ships are dropping, like, is the lower tier going to have more cargo to it because you're going to have more cargo freighters at that lower tier?
So this is the other thing that they did that I think is really interesting, is they put their thumb on the scale, because one of the things that they also measured against was time to kill. The one thing that really big cargo freighters have is giant shields and a ton of HP. So they show up in the higher tiers, not because they're good at killing, but because they're good at surviving long enough to not die. It's like you've got a cargo ship with a bunch of big turrets on it. The smaller fighter has to remain lucky through its entire shield and hull hit point pool, whereas it just needs to tag the small fighter enough times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure they also put their thumb on the scales to make sure that there's exciting cargo at the higher end as opposed to just exclusively at the lower end.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they balance this one.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. We first started seeing it with salvage, where you could go and salvage a ship. It's like, hey, there's a derelict ship out there, get some salvage, collect some money from the salvage, etc. But also you can pop in that ship's cargo hold and take what's in there. And sometimes that's worth a lot of money. And they recently rebalanced that because people were coming away with 20 million, huge amounts of money in, I bought the most expensive ship in the game in an hour and a half kind of ludicrous payouts. It's also very funny. They really like to tweak whatever the newest system they put in to encourage people to test it always pays out ridiculously. The thing that they just added was ship tractor beams. So you can move your ships can have mounted tractor beams on them, and thus you can move things at ship scale, which means that their tow truck ship now has a reason to exist. But there's not a lot of call for a tow truck ship yet, so they put in missions. The by far most lucrative mission right now, by a factor of 10, is a mission that people mostly didn't do because it was sort of annoying and dangerous. It's a salvage mission where you've got a ship, and basically the premise is, hey, one of our ships is down for the count, but if security finds it, they're going to know we're involved. We need you to go out there as a cleaner and scrape the hull off so they can't identify whose ship this is. You can bring a big salvager out and do a bunch of quick salvage work while keeping an eye out for security. Or you can take a tow truck and tow the ship to somewhere security will never find it. That works just as well. You do get a penalty. You do get a crime sheet for illegal towing, but you could pay that off. It's a pittance compared to the payout you're getting. But it does mean that the tow truck ship is now the premier criminal ship in the game, which I think is very funny.
No, I love the idea of like putting the risk first reward into this.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting because there's a bunch of people, I mean, unsurprisingly, there's a bunch of people complaining about it because they're like, it's really hard to reliably win these things and get all the cargo. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. you have to make choices. Suddenly it's actually a really compelling idea to do this with a friend where you have one friend in a reasonably capable ship, but that has a cargo bay, and then some other number of players in fighters who pick off all the targets, and then you collect it all as a team.
Yeah.
And what a neat little gameplay mission that touches a bunch of different parts of the game, all off of this, little bounty concept that used to be just go here, blow these people out. They'll take it, the previews that they're showing of, they call it resource management. I think of it as engineering gameplay, are pretty impressive. Managing what parts of your ship have power, patching up parts of the ship in flight, putting out fires, venting the ship if you need to put out fire real easily.
Good old FTL gameplay.
Yeah, just a neat little FTL interface. But it was interesting to see. It's interesting for me to see, like, a lot of times people get, like, in playing games, get stuck in, like, this is the way this game is played.
Mm-hmm.
And they know it inside and out, and they don't want it to change. And actually putting a change in that manages to shift that meta is really hard, especially if you're also fighting against, if you're also, worried about the prospect of players just like being outraged that you would change their game on them. But having this thing be this kind of subtle change is super interesting to me because you don't have to do it. You can keep doing what you were doing. It's just if you choose to do it differently, if you're the person who's come in here and you're maximizing your profits per hour for whatever that means in an alpha game, then you have to do the math on whether it's worth flying a less combat effective ship in order to get a bunch of money. And that's just an interesting, that's such an interesting choice to me. And like, I haven't been doing it because I have a different goal in mind. I'm trying to work my reputation up so I can get the higher tier missions. But I sure have seen some tasty cargo just floating in space that I can't get.
Any final thoughts?
If you starts this week?
Bell League starts this
Friday.
week. Friday.
All right.
We will be Bell Leaguered.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will set up the league as soon as it allows me to set up the league.
Yeah. If you play Fallout 76 at all, if you log in the next couple of days, you can get a free Fallout 33 vault suit because they just released a trailer for the Fallout series that's coming, and it looks extremely Fallout.
It does look aesthetically extremely Fallout.
I am hopeful. We shall see.
I'll give it a watch. I'm not like so engaged with the Fallout universe that it would be easy for it to like offend my sensibilities. So
I gather Vault 33 is in like LA, so it looks like we're going back out west for this.
Yep. It is the branch of the Brotherhood of Steel that had a war with the NCR. So we'll see how that all worked out.
Oof.
Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.